How much could he make for you top line revenue, David, in a year?
Oh, wow. As good as he was,
Yeah.
probably top line revenue, probably several million at least.
Great. And of several million, how much of that could you afford to pay him?
Of several million. Oh, good grief. Probably minimum $250,000.
Great. So then why isn't that in your ad?
More actually.
My whole point is you're aiming too low.
Welcome to Business Breakthrough Show with Ted Miller III, where every single episode is hosted live to help you uncover a breakthrough to the single greatest challenge you have in getting your business to where you really, really want it to be. So call in, comment, or share. Now, here's your host, Ted Miller III.
Awesome. Thank you for being here on our inaugural Business Breakthrough Community. I've made a decision. I need to find a way to help people in the midst of this double-digit inflation that's coming upon us, this another recession. We're officially in the recession, right? Have they finally succumbed to admit that we're in that yet? Is that a thing? I don't watch news, so I don't know, but I assume they've had to. It's still 2 quarters. And many people are here that I'm working with, or you're going to see today in our inner circle. Well, they've been past clients, and yet sometimes people need help where they can get it, but not just from a podcast where people are talking at you, or from a book where it's just a monologue. Want to have a dialogue? That's why we created the Business Breakthrough Community. I'm glad that you guys are all here today in the spirit of contribution, helping other entrepreneurs uncover great breakthroughs, maybe in sharing some of your own. So let's kick things off here today with a little bit of fun. Who here has just like some kind of thematic learning curve? One of the greatest little gems that you've been using in your back pocket your entire business career that's consistently served you, never served you wrong. Who's got a cute little quote or statement you guys want to bring to the table? Anyone got one of those? All right, David, fire away.
Build yourself. Build yourself, build your team, and together you'll be built to lead was kind of the subtitle of my book. And that was because I focus on building my people, and then they turn around and do a phenomenal job with our clients.
That's lovely. And then why don't you go ahead and every time I call in everyone, if you can, you're going to do it like this. State your name, where you're from, and the type of business that you have if you've yet to be called on in this show live. So do that just so everyone's not like, hey, who's that Dave guy? So Dave, do you mind doing that, sharing with?
Sure.
Okay.
David Long, Wilmington, North Carolina. I founded a company called My Employees, myemployees.com, if you will. We do employee recognition for companies like Walmart. We have over 1,000 Walmarts, Home Depot, Lowe's, FedEx Ground, Outback Steakhouse, a bunch of different people. And I guess that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And a fantastic author. So great job. I love that quote. So to say that again is to build yourself, to build your team.
Yeah. First of all, you got to build yourself, build your team, and together you'll be built to lead.
And together you'll be built to lead. Oh, that's said well.
As a team, because you know, it's like, I call it the Shark's Teeth Leadership Development Program in my book. And it's, if you're familiar with a shark's mouth, there are teeth that are ready to pop up if one gets knocked out. So we're constantly developing our people, and every business, everybody needs to do that. You were talking about having a number one where they step into you if you're on vacation or in any way incapacitated, that kind of situation. So that's what we do.
That sounds lovely. It reminds me a lot of the African proverb, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together, something like that. I'm sure I butchered it. It was in T.R. Becker's home. That's what he had stenciled along his entire hallway when I was there for his birthday. That ended with a 0 at the end of it. It was on his hallway. And I was like, oh, that's a good quote. Good quote. That's fantastic. Well, when we had a little chat, you shared one of your greatest challenges that you were facing was recruiting. So who here right now in the midst of what everyone's calling this great resignation, who else is here struggling with recruiting? Anyone else? Only Dave. Well, that's easy then. Bill, maybe? No. Have you already resolved that problem? No, I can't hear you. You're muted out. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So one of the things we had to do, Dave, was we changed the way that our model was. A lot of stay-at-home moms or folks who are just getting ready to be in a transition. So it's caused a little bit of leadership pull here and there to be able to manage that kind of workforce well. Because I bet your business is a lot like my business. It'd be great if you could work, at 6 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock at night. Maybe there's a small bit of your business there, but customer service, funny thing is if someone calls you, they don't really want to leave a voicemail and have you call them back the next day. They want to talk to you now. So being able to juggle some schedules on that, and then also not let our customers feel like it's just going to be roulette whenever they call, like who they're going to get and are they even going to understand their problem. But we've had to change, so I don't have traditional 40-hour week employees anymore in a lot of those roles, and just being able to set expectation and doing it. So I wouldn't say I've solved the problem. I've just had to adapt differently than we were built
Congratulations
before.
on adaptation. By the way, that's Bill Reynolds. He's from Element 502, great digital marketing firm out of New Albany. So Louisville.
But New Albany's right north. So
yeah. That's Louisville. I'll try that 10 more times, see if we get it right. Well, that's good. Well, I said I'd hot seat his ad, and so I have a premise on recruiting. When you're specifically trying to get great talent, I've got this concept that has served me really well. And it's one of the things that people come to me consistently from assistants, which is this. Most people can't recruit the right talent. I mean, they're good talent they really want, because they just don't have enough prospective talent come down in their pipeline. They just don't get enough people into their world. And so that's a conundrum. That's a significant issue. And so how do you do that? You get 100 people in your pipeline. Seriously, you literally get 100 people. And the way you need to do that is write a more compelling ad. So marketing 101, Bill, you're in a marketing firm. There are other here that are marketing titans as well. I mean, Paul, you can speak for it, but marketing 101, isn't it fair to say if your messaging is not about you, your company, and your brand, who the hell is that about? Who do we want to make the hero in the story when you communicate your message, gang, for my guys here that have marketing companies? Paul, you run a marketing company. Come on.
I could jump on that. I wasn't sure if somebody else can answer.
Sure.
I mean, it's all about, if we're doing it for the client, it's all about the client. It's the differentiating factor that you go
That's exactly
forward
right. So if you're running an ad for recruiting, what type of talent, David? It doesn't really matter, but for specificity, sales talent. Great.
Yeah.
So I got a whole niche on sales talent. If you guys need that in the inner circle, let me know. I'll give you tools on that. But so who is the hero at the end of the day, Paul? Who are we focusing our messaging on then? David Long's my employees or the salesperson?
It's for the employees.
Yeah, for the future employee, the candidate.
Yeah.
And yet that's not often what I see. How do you see it? Fundamental English. I didn't do great there. I was great in physics, calculus. Even then, I would commonly, my mom says I had better grades than I remember. I remember the C's, but she remembers it when I got an A. But I just didn't really enjoy school. I thought it was a game. I'm like, why do I need to come here to prove to you how smart I am? So I limped in by acing my tests, and I would just skip school. But my point going back to this is, who are we talking about fundamentally? So this, by the way, this is not his, oh yeah, that might be his text. Now hiring for account executives. Want to know that what you're doing matters? Want to make a difference in others' lives? Hey, this is not bad. I'm really surprised. Most ads come out of the gate saying, work for us. Our company is hiring. And they make the subject of the sentence their company. So who's the subject? We want to make sure it's them. So, but not anybody. You want ideal hires. So someone tell me, what is a characteristic trait of one of your ideal hires? Anyway, it's okay. It doesn't have to be David. It could be any one of you. If you're trying to hire someone on your team right now, share me a little bit about that.
Well, in sales superstars, which is something I learned from you, right? It's all about being able to take no, be persistent, right? So a lot of times if you're hiring a salesperson, what was Chet's old line? You'd want to make sure that you'd give them some adversity, tell them, give them that feedback, push back on them. If they just cowered and left the way, they probably weren't somebody you wanted as a salesperson.
Perfect. So I want to test their confidence. Do they have one of the two C's? One is confidence. So if they're confident enough, they'll persist. If they're confident enough, they won't take it personal, that rejection. So we'd want to put that language inside the advertisement. And so the way you would do it is carrot and stick. So every single time you dangle a carrot, We then apply a little bit of stick. So what that means is test their confidence. So $90,000 a year earning potential. By the way, does anyone know what the average American's making in a year right now? Anyone even have a clue?
45.
45? What were you going to say there?
47, somewhere around there, I think.
47?
I think so.
You can do some quick math. That's called twice the average income. You got one hell of an opportunity. So if you would challenge the person, it would say something like, but don't even bother calling unless you can prove yourself to be an overachiever and a top producer. But I just want to pause here a little bit and say, is it compelling enough? Ads need to be compelling enough, not just factual data and you talking about boring, whatever your benefits package that no one really is going to come to work for you for a 401k, right? That's just a little check mark. So what's the real benefit? So at the end of the day, what's the top 3 reasons why they'd love to work in my employee? Dave, can you give me any one of those 3? Top 3 reasons. Give me one.
Well, they control their own destiny, basically.
Control their own destiny. So a human being who loves to control their own destiny, what language do they use? How do they speak? How do they describe themselves?
Obviously, they're very confident.
Great. How else do they describe themselves? Anybody could speak up on this. Alex, Tim, anybody.
I'll let somebody else say something then.
No, you can just let it all roll. You can talk over each other. Trust me. We're here.
They're hungry. They're driven.
Great.
They want to take their life, which I like to kind of prey on that, where they have the opportunity. I don't cap their income.
Great.
By the way, that 90,000, I've had conservatively 5 of probably the last 7 people that have been successful has made more than 100 the first year. So that's pretty
Then
good.
why the hell are you lying to them saying 90 grand?
I didn't actually come up with that number, but that's true. With the 100,000.
But the whole point is you're lying about the potential.
Yeah. No, that's very
If you
possible, I guess.
am I the only one who gets fat and says I'm going to lose weight and I make a goal to lose 5 pounds, then I lose 4, but I gain back 6? Am I the only one who's ever gotten fat because I keep losing 4, gaining 6, losing 4, gaining 6? I'm the only one that's ever been Fatty McFadden here. Tim, you're the only one that's going to speak up and be honest. Because if they lie about this, you lie about other shit too. My point is, like, when you aim for the top of the mountain, you hit the side. So if you say 90, they'll think the best you could ever make is 90 grand. So you've had multiple people make more than 100,000. You didn't even identify that, but let's get really transparent. Do you want the best or do you just want mediocre people?
Only the best.
Who's the absolute best salesperson any of you guys have ever met? I mean, all-time greatest salesperson. Give me some names.
It's usually us.
Great. And it is usually the classic entrepreneur personality type. That's pretty common. Probably 80% of the people here have that same scenario. But I mean better than you. Because I used to think I was the greatest and I had a very small company. And I stayed small, but I doubled sales 3 years in a row. And I realized I'm not the greatest and I can recruit the greatest. So seriously, who's the absolute greatest you've ever met in your life? Give
Probably
a name.
Chet. Probably Chet.
Great. The late, great Chet Holmes. Oh
Chet
boy,
Holmes,
if you guys have not read my late business partner's book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, time to go get them is right now. We're releasing a new edition. I rewrote the entire chapter on recruiting. So it doesn't talk about recruiting egos. You don't want a team of egomaniacs. Major updates in this. I'm really excited. I'll send an email about it on it shortly. So Chet Holmes, if Chet Holmes came and worked for you, straight up, no BS. He worked for you for a year. He used to work for people, JOB. He did for Charlie Munger, billionaire, dialing for dollars, just calling to make ads. He was selling ad space in magazines, making hundreds of dials a day. How much could he make for you top line revenue, David, in a year?
Oh, wow. As good as he was, probably top line revenue, probably several million at least.
Great. And of several million, how much of that could you afford to pay him?
Of several million? Oh, good grief. Probably minimum $250,000.
Great. So then why isn't that in your ad?
More actually.
My whole point is you're aiming too low. If you're in the middle of being affected by this great resignation and you're really struggling getting the right painters, laborers, plumbers, whatever it is you do, chances are you're not shooting high enough for the absolute best and you don't articulate what David told me. He was talking about hunger. Are you driven? You're absolutely the best. You know you're confident. And when you go and look at his ad, I'll show it only one last time so he just doesn't feel abused. Nowhere in there is this in their ad. Blah, blah, blah. We got health and dental, blah, 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 401k. Just that's important to you. And, you know, here's your responsibilities that you're going to have to do for us. Come on. This is an advertisement. An ad needs to be compelling. Write a compelling ad because you're looking to strike two chords. I want to make this clear. One is their identity. I am someone who sets my own schedule. I am confident. I am a winner, right? Whatever David said. That's called identity. Then over here is a compelling future. Boom. Two most powerful forces to all humanity. So now I'm painting a picture that says, hey, you know what? I've had great salespeople make $100,000. Or I've had good salespeople make $100,000. And good's great, or good is nice, but great is better. And I'm looking for those that could do $250,000. Because isn't that what you just said they can make? Or how much did you say check code make?
$250,000.
$250,000. Then that's how you frame it, right? Good salespeople make 90. Great salespeople make over six figures. Absolute best, top producing sales stars could do $250,000. But don't you even bother calling unless you can prove yourself to be that overachiever and a top producer. So you speak to the identity and then the compelling future. No matter what roles, if you're, I've got someone who's struggling trying to get welders, and I'm like, great, you're not speaking to their identity because you look at their ads, it's pretty weak. Now, have any of you guys had great success in this area? Because there's more than one road to Rome. Paul and I are talking about confidence. He and I are on the same page on this. I like that. Yet what's another road to Rome that's helped you crack your code to getting the right type of talent you need when you need it? Any of you guys got something different? Something you want to share?
Sometimes empathy. It's good to have that they have empathy.
Yeah. Empathy is nice. And that's what's in the ultimate sales machine. I'm not disagreeing with my late business partner. I'm just saying that's not shooting for the top of the mountain. Meaning empathy is great, but if I shoot for empathy at the top of the mountain, you fall short. Describe to me an emotion below empathy. Energetically, what's an emotion just below empathy?
Compassion? What are you looking for?
Well, compassion, I disagree, is above empathy. I believe compassion is a place that is you're in absence of judgment. In fact, it's not just loving someone, it's loving them unconditionally. It's not just accepting them, it's accepting them unconditionally. That's a hell far cry away above from empathy. But that's what I'm shooting for, Dave. I would want you to shoot for compassion and then guarantee you're going to hit empathy. But if you shoot for empathy and you fall short, they show up in Dave's case, they're salespeople. But for your guys, they could be on the job site acting as a painter, and they could just be a little too flippant because just below empathy would be like sympathy or pity, right? And with the wrong tone. You feel like I didn't put enough paint on that corner? Okay, fine. Yeah, okay, whatever. Right? Do you know how that customer experience is going to go down for Tim real quick? Right? But someone who's compassionate is like, really? What do you mean? Like they lead with no judgment. They're just like, tell me what you mean. They genuinely care about the client succeeding. I believe those that care more will sell more, specifically for sales stars. So David, I highly recommend you look for those that are deeply rooted, but don't just get the Triagon hippie like I used to do. I used to get people that were just like me and they were all so nice and everyone sat around doing kumbaya, but couldn't close a barn door, let alone a sale. Make sure you get the balance of the two C's. You got my course and my tools on that, right? Great. Make sure you rock that. And you guys have any other distinctions that have helped you recruit? I see John's here. He's a past client. I'm going to see if I can promote him into the inner circle here because he cracked his code to recruiting agents, I think. But any of you guys have any other strategies or tactics you use to bring in some great talent or the right talent? John, did you ever crack that code? I think that was one of the original reasons you came into my world was you wanted to learn how to better recruit agents. John, did you crack that code in your town? I think it was Vermont. I may be wrong. Remind me where you're at. John, can you unmute? You guys want to know, this is 17
There
different
you go.
supplements.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was in a bad cell spot. Yeah.
Did
we're
you
in
ever
Vermont,
crack that
Maine.
code?
Yeah, we're in Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. Yeah, we use the CHEP method for sure, and stuff that you taught me.
Give a specific for others that are listening, beyond, because we're talking about running an ad on Indeed. Is that where you ran it? Like, give maybe a tactic or something specific that helped you, or maybe a referral methodology that worked really well. What worked for you?
Indeed didn't really work very well. We got people that were just trying to get their unemployment benefits, or they
That's
really
rough.
weren't qualified.
Yep.
The best thing that worked were, besides direct calls to people, were email blasts.
Okay.
We talked about the benefits of how much money they could make, and the whole superstar.
I love that. So you basically took your ad and put it inside an email and jammed it down
Right.
their throat.
Right.
How did
and
you
then
get their
they had-
emails? Is it because they're an agent and agents aren't hiding who they are and how to contact them? So it made it really easy to get that data?
Made it really easy. Yeah.
And make it really easy. And frankly, I don't care who you are. It's pretty easy with very little money. Ask the marketers here. Like, I go get my hair cut from this place called Harem. So it's a play on harem. Ha ha, funny, cute. So anyhow, so I'm obviously not as funny as I think I am, because when no one's laughing at my jokes, I just
I
know.
laugh.
And so she was like, oh, I go in and I'm watching her seats get emptier and emptier. And then sure enough, she works the front desk. And she's owned this place for 15 years. I've never seen her work the front desk. I go, I've met you before. She goes, yeah, my name is Celeste. I was like, oh yeah, no, I met you in person like 12 years ago. She was an EO. I was speaking at a thing. I was like, yeah, I remember you. I said, I'm one of your OGs. I've been here from the day you put this place up. She goes, oh, thank you for being a loyal client. I go, yeah, but what's up with all the empty seats? Like, there are a ton of booths that could have, oh, I can't recruit any hairdressers. And sure enough, like, go look up her ad. It's pretty much, hairdresser this, we do this hours. I mean, just really bad and lame. And she was like, I can't find them in other locations. And I said, well, why don't you just retarget, geo-track them? I go, you can go recruit away from, find every salon in the area and geo-track. Does anyone even know what I mean by geo-tracking?
Yep.
Like, if you're on
For
a
our client.
sky-rising
Yeah,
New York, what was
That's
that?
what we did. That's what we did, Ted. We geo-fenced around every real estate office in the markets we wanted to be in.
Did you really actually do this?
Oh yeah, we served them ads.
I
Yeah,
love
absolutely.
doers like you, man. I talk about this stuff all the time. And like, I'm just so frustrated by how people come back on and they're still complaining. I'm like, did you do that? Did you call anyone? I have marketers they're like right here. Bill and Paul, this is what they do for a living. Maybe you don't, I don't know, but they can
Not
go
only did we
geofence.
do that, Ted, we served ads to get clients as well, because we figured they'd have clients walking in and out of their offices.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I'd never even thought of that. What a gangster move to just like do preemptive wizardry.
Yeah.
Oh, think of Tim going to every single painting. Like, I don't know if there's ever like a showroom and they come down and buy their paints, or everyone's got a Miller paint that you walk into to go, well, what color do we want our living room to look like? But we never bother to think to retarget them to say, do you really want to do that? Cathedral ceiling by yourself this weekend? Now, again, Tim, I don't know who you're ultimately doing your painting for. Is it B2C, business to consumer, or are you doing B2B, big locations?
Both, actually.
Well, which one's more profitable for you?
B2B usually.
B2B, yeah. So this is a good recruiting, let alone for an end client strategies. You can go retarget those based on where they're at. Meaning, yes, they track your location on the phone. Yes, they track what they're saying to you. Yes, this little camera's on and can see what kind of watch you have. And I was talking about the watch the other day, but I didn't say the name of that watch. But just because I had a little camera on, guess what? Boom, tag, your ads were running in front of me like that. I was like, ooh, that was smart. I was like, the camera's on. So yeah, they can definitely tell not just physically where you're at, two-dimensionally, also three-dimensionally. So if you're on a skyscraper, they can tell you what floor you're on in that skyrise. So if like floor 34 is Sullivan Smith Barney, another financial firm wants to go attack all their high net worth clients that are coming in because they know when they do their big annual like appreciation event to their whales, all they have to do is go geotag those people on the day that they had that event. Whoever TNC's competitors are, or the guys like, I saw Grant Cardone's coming in. He's trying to like pull people out that are hopping on planes going to this thing called traffic conversion event. He's trying to take momentum from those people into another mastermind by having a mastermind the day after that one conveniently ends, and then using centers of influence to try to promote it. I'm like, that's great. But what if you go and just retarget every single person that was in that location last year and just like hit them up for your, hey, after TNC, why don't you stay one extra day, do this free mastermind, right? So there's so many creative ways. Don't be afraid to do a little workshop with your team. If you guys don't have tools, you can email me at tedmiller@tedmiller3.com, and I'll send you how to run a workshop so you and your team can come up with strategic insights in any one of these areas. Because you don't need to just show up for the Business Breakthrough community to get someone to share these ideas. You can get a lot of these from your own team, right? It's a wise man can learn from anyone, a fool from no one. And you and your other staff members are no fools. You got a lot. You've got a lot to teach them, but you got a lot to learn from them if you can just be quiet long enough. You know how the rule is on leadership. David, you said you're at 10 million now. So the big people are at about 10 million-ish. The big thing I'm always looking at between 10 and 30 million is to get them to add less value and stop fixing stuff and getting them to just basically shut up. I want to be really clear. If you're going into a workshop or a meeting, who should be the last person to speak?
That would be me.
The leader, whoever the leader is going to be.
Yeah.
Let that leader speak last, because you want the benefit of hearing what the other people have to say so you can formulate your thoughts and ideas based on that insight. That's what great Fortune 500 CEOs do, is they make the decision. They are decisive, but only after they've accumulated the knowledge from their team. Then they can make an intelligent decision. Don't go into a meeting and say, okay, here's what we're going to do here today. That's what you did in the 1-2 million raise. You're at 10, in David's case, that 10 to 30 million. I either wanted to run without me, set up to sell it. I don't know what his ambitions are. We didn't talk about it. Whatever that may be, boy, take that back seat, if you will, energetically. But I haven't read your book, but if I read it, will it say something just like that, David? You ever notice, like, you're like, yeah, because he's sitting there with a smirk. I'm like, man, he probably wrote the book.
I looked into selling it, and I was going to sell it between 24 and 28 million. Was the price, but I found out that they didn't guarantee any of my people to be able to stay. I didn't like that, so I basically walked away from that deal.
Yeah,
I'm okay though. I don't need to work another day if I don't need to.
That's what Ron DeHaas said to me. He told me he wanted to sell it at 10 million for $10 million revenue. He got offered $15 million. And that same situation came up, and he reneged in the 9th hour. And you know what he decided to do, David? He did an ESOP. He's getting paid handsomely. Everyone thinks that's impossible. He accomplished an ESOP, selling his company to his employees.
Something similar to that. I'm actually giving some of my best people who've been with me for 10 plus years a percentage.
Yeah. Cash flow is essential. We talked about compelling future, but if you're looking for greater motivation in your life and you want to make sure you're moving past any limiting beliefs you have, remember, my perspective is big visions drive big passions. You just might not have a big enough vision yet. Like, he's thinking about money, and then he's getting presented money. You heard him. He's like, yeah, I got offered 28 million, but they couldn't secure my employees. Some of you are like, take the $28 million and run, screw those, they'll get a new job, I'm out, right? Some of you are like, that's where your stage. But remember, you may change. You know, you might, in 10 years, I know 10 years goes by fast, but 10 years might be a totally different person. And your priorities might adjust. So, but I want to insist that if your belief structure has it looking at your feet and your immediate environment saying, how happy am I? If you're just only happy, that eventually over time turns into apathy. I talk about this often enough, but people don't want to acknowledge it when they're happy because, damn it, I feel good. And they don't call me until 2 years when shit hits the fan. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So one thing you could do is look at how much you're contributing to things that are greater than you, your society, the whatever it is that's outside of your immediate sphere and you and your family. Maybe it's your church, or last year we did the I'm doing a boat cruise thing at TNC. Last year we mitigated sex slavery. One of my dear friends on his private plane, he's got private plane money. I'm not there yet. So he's got the private plane. He brought in a gal with him to make sure she'd show up because she was put in sex slavery. She was a married person with children put into sex slavery. Most people can't comprehend that. So he wanted her to speak firsthand, not secondhand knowledge of, but a person who'd been in it in a safe environment on a boat. And she showed up. And boy, we did great things that day. And I'm telling you, no one walked onto that boat saying they had any extra money. But when your vision and something opens up into you, grace, serendipity, something shows up and suddenly you have extra money or you find it. And grace kicks in. When you're serving something greater than yourself, have you guys ever noticed the serendipity just happens in the moment when you're trying to serve something just beyond launching your freaking product? But if you're in service to something greater than yourself, the JV partner, the center of influence suddenly promotes your thing and you grow exponentially faster. I call it grace. What do you guys call it? Call it what you will. God,
grace
nature.
works. Yeah. Divine providence.
Divine providence. It's there. What did they had a funny word for it. Infinite intelligence. Two or more like-minded people put their heads together in a workshop environment towards a common goal. They tap into infinite intelligence. So, well, he's talking about wanting to recruit some talent, which is great. We talked about what? We talked about having two things to make sure that you're going to get greater applicants. One, make sure you have a compelling feature dangled as well, clearly speaking to their identity. Also, Paul put in there, make sure you have the balance of the two C's, compassion and confidence. So that's a definite win as well. But what's another thing you guys are looking to tackle here today? What's the thing that's really got you stumped that you want to present to this group of really brilliant entrepreneurs? What do you think's really keeping you from your greatness? Like that next gear in your business that you'd like to present to the team? Because this group here, they've accomplished a lot. If you knew their backgrounds, you would know why they're in the inner circle. Inner circle members are nominated. So go ahead and share. What's your biggest conundrum you're faced with today? Someone might be able to already share how they've solved that problem.
Another thing for David, real quick, before we jump. The other thing, David, that we've seen a lot of success with, is as silly as it sounds, is social media. And I say silly because I'm of a grayer hair side, so I don't see social this way. But social is the sniff test for your company that potential applicants will use to be able to check you out. So you can talk all day long about how much empowerment you give, how much things that you do, what is this, but your social media for your company really needs to be more about your company and not about what you do. So it's not the look at these pictures of cats and those kind of things, or we just take a picture when it's someone's birthday, but having your actual employees be your best marketing agent for that and your referral source on that by using social, using your company social, sharing things, because that's where people are going to start to look for, especially as your age group starts to change on that demo. So
I couldn't agree more. I don't understand why more companies don't let their employees act on behalf for their company site, not the hired person from a third world nation to post on your behalf. Why don't you just give it to your employees? If you have a good employee base.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
We actually pay our employees a referral bonus. And we have this massive check. It's like 4 feet long, and we handwrite their name on there in removable ink. And it's $1,500 every time they refer someone. And that has been our greatest asset, especially in salespeople particularly, but we also pay out bonuses for bringing in, production people.
Well, no one's going to disagree that your best employees came from just one referral away, because all of our existing clients and staff members are usually one referral away if you look at your employee base. But what he was alluding to was leveraging social, that if people can go on social media platforms, like give your grandkids, if you have a grandkid working for you, pouring through your book and making TikToks on your content from your book. Like whatever platforms are appropriate. What are the most relevant social media platforms today, gang? I know he's talking about gray hair here. Yeah, okay. So what platforms am I not on? You know,
Right.
because
So
this
those are gonna
group
be
looks
the
like
TikTok.
Facebook, but outside of Facebook, what are you going to say?
it's gonna be
LinkedIn for
Facebook and
business.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Facebook and LinkedIn? Great.
Yeah.
So why not link?
And we
You know
do
what's great
that.
about what was
Yeah.
that, sir?
We do that. We do
Yeah.
both of those. So that's good. We actually put pictures up of our people being recognized, and we blow those out there. We just had that ceremony today.
Yeah. You know, I was alluding to letting your staff, let there be a greater degree of transparency and let staff members post more frequently than the perfectly posted picture of them receiving the 4-foot check. Have the 4-foot check in there, but have the reality posts that aren't perfectly framed, the Instagram perfect photos, because that looks like a marketing person did that, not Susie that's down there cutting the freaking wood. Like, by the way, do you make your actual products or do you offload it to someone else?
No, we don't. We don't make them. We have that.
You don't make them.
outsourced.
Do you have
Yeah.
do you have someone like licking the stamps and like doing?
No. We're all FedEx now
Okay, all FedEx. Okay, great.
on everything. Yep.
I'm just thinking of like there's a minutia job somewhere, but that minutia job, and if that person's doing a minutia job and they love it, like having to lick stamps all day, I'd rather do it nowhere else than but here and my employee. You know what I mean? Just like that. It just like that's what I think Bill's alluding to. Bill, give an example of what you were thinking about. That's worth
So
really
like
well
if you got the giant check, ask them what they're going to do with that money. Don't be too much in their business, but have them put it up in their own words. What are you going to do with that money? What does that mean to you? Because what's really funny is since you just gave them that money and you're asking what they're going to do, they're going to thank you by default. They can't help but doing it because they're excited and they're going to thank you. They're going to thank the company and they're going to talk about what it is and what's going on in there. Those kind of things are really big in that. And then if you can ever get employees to do their own testimonies, and then what Ted's saying, on a cell phone shaky, you don't want to give someone like motion sickness because they're, running through a hallway kind of thing, but it doesn't have to be a perfectly exactly, or driving down the car. Don't do it in your car. Just find a place and just talk and be willing to put up, even if it's not painting you in the best light, because it's just like, reviews on your website or reviews on Google. A bad one every now and then shows that it's not fake. And so that's the kind of thing, because people, it's not just the people your employees are going to be referring to you. That's some of these candidates that may see your superstar ad for your $100,000, $200,000 plus, first year possibility are going to look you up and see if you're full of crap, because otherwise they're doing, all right, well, you're just going to grind me and throw me out in 6 months and then keep my clients. And then I'm not getting paid commission on that. So,
Yeah, it's really
those
good.
kind of things.
That's good. It's funny you say that because on Glassdoor, we've had a few people that didn't make it. And I had one of them say that they called me a cult, which I thought was kind of funny.
I worked with Tony Robbins, man. No one's heard that word more than that guy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Oh my God. The day I got into business with that guy, I started hearing that. I was like, what?
I know, but I pay my employees an hour a week on Wednesday, which today, from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock I buy books. Everybody, we have book club. I pay them, and I've done that for 17 years. So some people don't like that. That's why they call it the cult. I just thought that was funny.
The cult of knowledge. And
Yeah.
have fun with that. I would love to post that and be like, they said we have a cult. We do. We're cultivating every single person's soul by giving them time to mature themselves. Because I know if they work on themselves, and then I go right back to your hook on your book, working yourself, working your team, that thing. Yeah, I love that. What smart group. What a freaking smart group. Well, but I'd like to see if we can be confident enough to be vulnerable enough to talk about what we're struggling with, because it's really convenient. We all want to talk about how to help someone do something. And we talked a little bit about David with recruiting because, I just knew his character enough to know he could be willing to go first as a leader based on the reference of his title of his book. So who's got something you're facing right now you'd love to just overcome? Maybe something that's a glaring burr in your side that, boy, if you could just free that up, that could change a lot for you. Any of you guys struggling with something? Otherwise, I'm going to tell you, profits is almost always top of the list. Cash flow, because taxes have taken you out or is going to take you out or inflation is going to take you out. But who's got one that you want to tackle here today?
We're running into that. I am the cheapest bank for my clients right now. Contracts are written based on milestones, which was great up until up until now, because then I get paid, but then they can hold on to the rest of the money because I haven't hit that milestone. So, if something's not launched, then they don't have to give the last of the money yet. And
Yeah.
so we have a lot of projects where we are a bank for, and then 60 days has become more the new norm for our B2B clients on paying. So a way to be able to word that correctly, so it doesn't sound like, that I'm going to call the knee buster guys out and have to, teach a lesson out behind
How
the
do
tool
you
shed
say,
kind of thing.
what is the actual words, please? Because I know what I sent out yesterday. I'm pulling up my email so I can be very specific about what I said. And I said the words, our SOP, our standard operating procedures, is 30 days grace, 60-day probation, 90 days sent to collections. So
Nice.
what's a way I could say that even better? That, so it doesn't come across, how do you manage expectations to where it's like red light, yellow light, green light, you know what I mean? Like 30 days, I can extend grace to anybody because of a hiccup in 30 days. 60 days, I got a yellow light probation, but there's a time in a life where I got to pull a card and say red light. So how do you frame that? How do you reword that so it doesn't sound like I'm sending you to knuckle busters?
That's it. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I don't really know how to do that. And then the second part about it is that, I know that businesses are struggling. I'm a small business. A lot of us are small business owners. And so that grace that you're talking about, that extension, like if a phone call will go a way long way, but if you're just ghosting me, that 90 days shrinks down real quick.
So I felt ghosted. So I used identity and my language was falling out of good standings. And I got a reply. Because do they want to be known as a person who's falling out of good standings? I don't know, but I used falling out of good standings within the company. I said, I'd like to work with you to prevent you from falling out of good standings within the company. So I just immediately wanted to go back to what's our identity? Do they want to be known as a schmuck? Like we helped them drastically. They said so, and it's not like we haven't communicated to them like, hey, you got to do this thing. But plus who did it? They had me do it. So my staff had reached out and they were getting ghosted, but it's amazing like who in the company communicates gets a different type of response too. So maybe something you can consider is if this, then that. I write emails often that I don't send, but I wrote, and some of you even here received them. So what do I mean by that? I think it's kind of weird. No, I think it's unethical to let someone else write emails on my behalf. Because that just is wrong. I don't care if they're a copywriter or not. I'll let a copywriter help me frame my words, but I want to make sure I'm holding the intent because I think words carry that kind of energy. They can feel your intent. So I'd love to get dialed in on my intent, yet I will write it and I'll give it to my staff and I will let them send it all the time. If this condition is met, I would say that anyhow. So I let them send that on my behalf, literally from my email, tedmiller@tedmiller3.com, and it'll come from me to a client. But I didn't have to take the time to write it, Bill. You know what I mean? My CFO could fire that puppy off because we're approaching the 90-day mark. And suddenly it went from accounts receivable, to the sales rep, to suddenly the CEO, the face of the brand, whoever that is in your company, is sending an email saying, hey, what can I do to help? Because it seems like you're going to ready to fall out of, I'd even use the words, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't realize sooner that you're getting ready. Ready meaning, and then I use the word common meaning 2 days, and I get very specific and put in a date, falling out of good standings with the company by insert September 20th, to get very specific, like basically passively aggressively saying that's when we send you to collections, dude. Right? So I consider the culture that you have in your company and consider the avatar's identity and then use that. So I want to double down with that same theme because I said it's the two most powerful forces to humanity. It's used to help you past your limiting beliefs and keep you motivated. But I use it specifically for recruiting because that's how it's enticing, meaning what motivates. But when you're recruiting for a culture, hopefully you're recruiting people that have like-minded virtues. Otherwise, you're not fostering your culture. You're just letting it run amok, and you're wondering why you have infighting in your company because you didn't recruit diversity. You recruited polarization. Like, there's a difference. A diverse group of people and perspectives is one thing, but allowing people to counter culture is doing nothing but seeding in cancer in your company. So let the language in the way that you address it. So how can you get upstream on this? Have you asked your clients ever if you could be the one vendor that they stay in good standings with and say, hey, can I count on you? Because we just hit a recession and times are going to get lean. You know that for a fact. And there's always going to be the uncomfortable conversation about someone hasn't paid their bills lately. Can I count on you to do two things? One, first, can you be my client that I don't have to have that conversation with? And two, if we do reach that point, can you treat me with the respect that we can just commit to getting on the phone and having a private conversation about it between men, or, between two humans? And just see what we need to, you know what I mean? And don't let it, because the hard part is scope creep. The hard part for me is if I just avoid it, Bill, my expenses grow because my staff members are being held to an outcome they can never reach because they're never going to reach the outcome because their client didn't pay. And now my KPIs for my staff members are going to be obliterated and they might miss their bonus for that. So I can't, that's my big problem is I don't know how you guys do your KPIs, key performance indicators, but I measure my staff members based on outcomes.
I would chime in on, you're both dependent, your client and you, Bill, are dependent on each other. I'd remind them a lot of times, if you're bringing in leads for sure for them as whatever business you're doing with, or whoever you're dealing with, if you shut off the spigot, they're going to hurt a lot worse than paying the bill to you. Just remind them that it's a team effort, but I'm paying my people, but I'm not getting paid to be able to pay my people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
how fast do you pull the trigger on that? How fast do you shut off the activities? 30 day, net 30, net 60. What are you doing?
And me, we turn ours off at 90, and I usually give the phone call. Like I'm turning off because people forget like how much, I can turn off your email, your website, all these things. And it's not like a power play kind of thing. It's your whole identity goes away. And so that's the kind of the piece that's there. And I can tell.
How many times did you communicate you're about to do that before you do it?
I do it twice. And I make
think
sure
you're not
that
doing enough. In my opinion, I don't think you're communicating enough. They just got too much drama. I got a phone. I went on date night. Date night sucked last night. You want to know why? Because I got another friend who's dying. That's going to happen. And whatever you sent me last night that I saw, I didn't register. Because I wanted what I wanted from my wife that I know I'm not going to get because I got a friend who's dying and we're trying to fight back tears and act like we're having a good time. Am I the only one who's ever had shit days like that? Right.
No.
So it's like that. If you only do it twice, I'd say 90. Send 2 emails. And do you call? Do you text? Like I would recommend to get more aggressive about your commitment to cash flow. I would recommend that you find a way to not just ever send an email. You send an email and a text and a voicemail simultaneously. Use your own marketing tools. Retarget their ass on social media saying, hey, I love you, but I don't want you to leave because you're 30 days away from me shutting your ads account off. Like, have fun. Don't worry. No one sees this. Just you. Yeah, you. Remember
I wouldn't
me?
wait till
I'm
90
Bill.
days either.
What's that?
90 days is way too long.
I
90 days
think
is
it's
way
way
long.
too long.
I would,
think
we do 45. The agreement is their 30. At 45 it is automatically triggered. We send a letter. We do a text if we have that. In most cases we do. I mean, I have had less than 1/3 of 1% of all our clients since I've been in business not to pay. Now, granted, we deal with very strong big box stores, so that's a little better than most people.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot better than most. Mine is international. It's so much easier for someone to skate on me internationally. Undeveloped third world nations just get ghosted, right? And they're the ones that work me over my heart for a payment plan more than others. But I don't know. I don't know the perfect answer on that, other than I think better communication earlier to manage expectations. Because anytime you and your clients get upset, it's because you mismanaged expectations. How do you get mismanaged expectations? By you failure to communicate that expectation earlier and sooner. How do they not get communicated? Because you're lazy and relying on an email. Like, get creative and cut through the clutter. You can't deny. Like, I got lazy. I got a reply because I was only WhatsApping this fella. So what do? I went and WhatsApped him. I went and I emailed him. I went on LinkedIn. I just surrounded the dragon. Bang, bang. It's called surround the dragon in Eastern medicine. Chet called it compounding. So did Jay Abraham. I think they used the word compounding. It's when you use multiple marketing strategies. So it's like, the other kid, what he'd call it, jab, jab, right hook. Like jab, 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 right hook. It's like you find a way to just surround them. Like, no matter what they're doing, how they're doing it, you just get in their space and they're facing the place. But always hold true to the intent. The purpose is to serve you, whatever. I use the word love in my business. So you just use whatever language is appropriate within your business. I'm not afraid to speak.
There's another thing too, Bill. Once they realize that date is 90 days before you really get nasty, they know that's a big, huge buffer.
New one. Yeah.
And they're going to do it. That becomes the standard, brother.
Minimums become maximums. Now I never have to pay until they'll literally turn around and send memos to their CFO. Great. Don't pay these people until 85 days. And that's your new standard. Good. Like, manage expectations. Like, maybe what can change in your mark? Whatever. Let's say it's 45 days. Well, what could happen at 30 days to let it clear that they know the shoe's dropping at 45 days? Like, what could be the baby step? Right? I don't know, but find a way that you can better communicate it. I'm working on getting better on that as well. I was just debating like offloading some of this altogether. I thought about it before. I was just always worried about giving up control because it would ruin the brand, which is, if they ever want to do payment plans, they could find that money with someone other than me. Because I have 50% of my clients, my program is really inexpensive. So I take what everyone else is charging $25,000 in the marketplace for, and I charge only $5,000 for it. So I win clients over pretty heavily and pretty quickly because everyone else is saying, hey, $25K for a mastermind, and they don't even get private coaching. We give private coaching. I meet with them every single week for a business quarter, right? I'm looking at some faces here. We've seen each other for a while, right? And but that's inexpensive. But 50% are doing a payment plan on it. So how do I negate that? I'm debating, like, do I offload that? Because now if it's like a third party company, they're not mad at my brand that the credit card's chasing them back for that money. You know what I mean? So I haven't figured out how to resolve that yet perfectly, but I have gotten easier. And what I mean by easier, Bill, is I just find creative ways. So I charge significantly more money for me to play banker because it always costs me more money in chasing down bad debt or having an assistant. So significantly, I'm talking about like 20% increase in overall price by spreading out payment plans. So when you get creative, I make it very transparent to them that they're paying that much more because they've chosen to do payment plans instead of paying full. And so, Paul, I don't know how that's going to affect you as you're moving into fractional CMO. But highly recommend that if you're if you're a high paid guy, like if you're a high ticket guy, so high ticket to me is like, are you like a 36K a month, 20K a month? Like, are you north of 10 grand a month to work on projects, or are you 2 grand a month?
5K. So it's 5K a month. And I usually charge in advance. So the spigot gets shut off the second, and you know what? I used to be that $399, $1,000 a month. And I would get taken advantage of all the time. About 5 years ago, I just cut them all out. I said, I can't do it anymore. Some of them came back crying. Oh no, because they couldn't find anybody that was a sucker like I was. And now what they ended up doing, I just said, I can't do it anymore. It was just that it was a headache. I found myself spending, the 80-20 rule, chasing them more than I was working on my work. So
it's a pay in advance. I was just going to say that's the exact model that we have, is that they just have to pay in advance.
Yep.
So when they don't pay, that they just don't show up.
That's right. 10 days into it, they don't pay. They're asking questions, and you're like, we don't even have you on the board. What's going on? Oh, I didn't know. I'll get right on it. And then we just get it. It was once we converted them over, it's just it just doesn't happen anymore. So that works better.
The number one thing that no one's talking about right now, which I don't understand, I'll end on this, which is probably the worst thing to end on, because it's going to feel like a downer. But
Great.
but most people here, I'm looking at your face, like, I don't know how Paul's got that baby face. You don't really know how old Paul is. Like, he could be our age, or he could be half our age. Like, you just don't know.
55.
Oh yeah. Okay. You're ours. I was just going to say look at his baby face. I thought I had a baby face. You got the ultimate baby face. You look way younger than me. God, he just said 55. Oh, my wife's going to hate me tonight. So, what my point was, not getting honest enough about cutting. Like, if you have to let go staff and you need to pay. So what do I mean by that? Cash flow crunch is going to be an issue. If you're already working hard to make your ends meet now, you have to be dead, dumb, and deaf and blind. If you've already lived through .com going bust, 9/11 hit, if you lived through 2007, you can't pretend that you're not about to experience that now. So what does that mean? Get lean. How do you get lean? You level up. It's up or out. It's called performance improvement plan. But everyone used the performance improvement plan as the last action step before you fire someone, so you don't get legally sued. Wrong. Mean it. Get everyone on a PIP by getting clear KPIs in the single most important impact area for their line of their job, whatever their roles are. They need to have a single KPI that if they can't meet this number, a minimal acceptance level. But here's the problem. Your company's typically been apathetic, and your minimums become maximums. You got one line. It's, if you don't hit this, you get fired, which means you never fire anyone. BS, you don't. You got to draw 3 lines in the sand. What's your goal? What's a stretch goal so you can reward them and give them that $4,000 bonus, whatever. Yay. Like big 4-foot check that Dave was talking about. On the other line is the PIP line. First time they get a strike, you lean in and you train them. Second time they get a strike, you lean in and train them again, and negative consequence. But the third time, they're out, puppy. It's up or out. You got to thin the hurt now.
Thanks for listening to Business Breakthroughs with Ted Miller III, helping you discover breakthroughs to the single greatest challenge to getting your business to where you really, really want it to be. Join us every week at this time or anytime 24/7 by listening to us on iTunes at Business Breakthroughs with Ted Miller III.